On a number of Facebook pages, one of which is Open Texas. And Open Texas, thank you for having us. We're glad that you are joining us tonight and are part of our effort to educate, inform, and activate. I think it was Thomas Jefferson who said that an educated citizenry is a vital requisite to our survival as a nation. And so part of what we're doing here tonight is providing information. Information asks and answers the question, what's going on? What's going on? Most of you here are awoke. I think that's the way they're saying it these days. That you're awake. You know what's happening, but most do not. And part of our effort here is to give you the kind of information that you can share with others that would help them to realize the urgency of the hour. We're facing an authentic threat. Our very survival as a nation depends upon how we respond to the question, what is going on? Why asks and answers the question, we said information, education. Education asks and answers the question, why is this happening to us? And we need to answer that question too. That there is an agenda, an ideology that's in the public square that is winning the hearts and minds of young people. And they are believing in the lie. The Bible says when it comes time for the end, there will be a deceptive spirit that will go out and deceive many. You're in the church, so you're going to get some church now. and it will deceive many. And men and women, there is a deceptive spirit that is out there. And it's appealing, it's seductive, it's alluring to those who are uninformed and uneducated. So we want to inform, educate, and then activation. There is no activation without those two that preceded, information and education. And so we want to do that tonight. Here's a challenge I'm going to give to you. Because you and I, we've been in meetings before. Many of us, we know one another. But I want to challenge you. Many of you silverheads in here. All right? My head is silver too, just I don't have much of it. You can't see me. I tell folks that I'm 2 years short of 70. 2 years. But here's your challenge. The next time we have a meeting like this, would you bring your sons, your daughters, so that they can know what in the world is going on? Because they're not here, our strength has been marginalized by their ignorance. And you are facilitating that by not challenging them to come. I think you have one card that you can play with your kids always. Do it for me just one time. Just one time, son. I mean, and he, okay, Dad. Okay, Mom, I'll come. And when they come, they'll get the kind of information that we need for them to have in order to be effective to rescue this republic. Men and women, we're on a rescue mission. How many know that's the truth today? We're on a rescue mission. And what's happening in the streets of America now is not incidental or accidental. It is by design. It's by design. It is crises management on the left. Order, chaos, new order. That's what we're seeing, a Hegelian dialectic. Let's do this. Stand to your feet and let's open with a word of prayer. Eternal God, we are grateful for your presence in our lives and in this church. We pray that you open our eyes that we may see, our ears that we may hear the urgency of the hour, and how we, as your servants, may serve the purposes of God in this very unusual dark time in our nation. Let the ember of your light shine forth through us as we speak truth to power and participate in the rescue of this republic. We ask this in the name that is above all of the names, the name of Jesus, who is our Redeemer, our Savior, and our Lord. And God's people said, Amen. Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. Amen.
Hi, good evening, and we are so thankful that you've come out tonight. Thank you to those who are watching us. We've got a Zoom meeting with American Liberty Forum. We're on Facebook with several groups, and we welcome you who are watching us as well. We have some candidates in the room, and we're going to acknowledge that they're here. And if you'll hold your applause till the end, we appreciate it. Chad Perda is running for sheriff, and he's in the room. Oh, I know, everybody's so bad. Republicans, conservatives, I should say. Tilly Perkins running for national delegate, CD5. Susan Fountain running for re-election, SREC, SD16. Jill Glover running for re-election, SREC, SD12. Did I say Angela? Angela Singletary is running for City Council in Mulch Springs. Okay. Morgan Meyer, Abby Aldine is here for him in the back, and he's HD 108. Sorry about that. Okay. Dr. Eugene Allen running for 109, HD 109, up there. Will Douglas over here running for HD 113. Samuel Smith in the back running for I have it, 107, I had it. Dallas County Commissioner, vote Hardin. Where are you, Mr. Hardin? All right, there you go. Yeah, I think that's everybody. Did I miss anybody? Great, okay. I have the honor and the privilege to welcome and introduce our speaker tonight, and we're so appreciative of P&K. So many ideals and principles that we hold dear are at risk. They're at stake right now, and we're working hard. We're honored to have a true champion of liberty here to speak up tonight. Senator Bob Hall has been a patriot through all of his life. And a lot of you know him, but some of you don't, so we're going to give you a little history on this great man. He's a graduate of the Citadel. We know that's a wonderful military college and has made some really wonderful leaders. During his time there, he was the only Air Force cadet who was selected to be a battalion commander. He received numerous other leadership awards while he was there. He was awarded the coveted Wade Hampton Sabre. It's an honor bestowed on the graduating cadet who contributed the most to the Citadel during their time there. It's a really big deal. After graduation, he was already a cadet. He headed to the military, and he was active duty as a systems engineer, working to develop the Minuteman missile system at Norton Air Force Base in California. He achieved the rank of captain before he retired from service. That has been a great blessing to our state, was his time there, because he knows so much about the great issue and has really fought hard to try to protect us with that, and we appreciate that. Let's see. I'm sorry, I got out of order because I wrote things on the wrong page. All right, so he started an engineering company, and after retiring from that, he got elected to be the senator for Senatorial District 2, and we have been so glad to have him fighting in that position. While in the Senate, he served as chairman of the Committee on Agriculture and vice chairman of Veterans Affairs and Border Security. He's earned the reputation of being open-minded and willing to discuss ideas, but Bob Hall remains absolutely unwavering in holding to his core conservative principles and Judeo-Christian values. He believes in the Declaration of Independence, and he follows our Constitution. He's pro-life, pro-gun, pro-liberty, pro-Judeo-Christian, conservative values, and a staunch proponent of the free market. He and his awesome wife, Kay, live in Edgewood, Texas, and we are blessed to have this patriotic servant here with us tonight to discuss how contact tracing tramples our liberty. Help me welcome Bob Hall.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. It's just, it's an honor, and I'm humbled and blessed that God has given me this opportunity to give back and to serve. And so we've got a lot of work to do. Our founding fathers knew what they were talking about when they said that our government is of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is our government. And unfortunately, too many people have abdicated that responsibility. But before I start talking tonight, I just want to make sure that everybody understands. I am a conservative because Kay makes me be. I kid you not. She was in politics long before I was, and she showed me where to go and what to do. And you know how she keeps me there? She threatens to run against me. So it's out of pure fear that I stay on the right. Amen. And also, before we get started, I want to do something tonight here that I wanted to do for a long time, to recognize a man of God and country who serves both. And it's been my pleasure to have first met him when he ran for Congress and worked with him in the grassroots. Where's our pastor, Broden? Where is he? No. Where is he? I know you weren't, but I've been wanting to do this because I've watched you, I've followed you. You've been my idol in so many ways.
No idols. No idols. No. Second commandment. Thou shalt have no other gods. Okay.
No.
Up to you.
Figuratively speaking, all right. Because of your commitment and your willingness to stand up and speak the truth when others want you to say something else. So I just wanted to do a little something, so we had a flag flown over the state of the Capitol.
Wow.
In your honor.
Wow, thank you so much.
So thank you. This is a thank you. Great man.
Met many years ago, and we were putting pressure on one of the representatives, was it? Do you remember?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And we bird dogged him and hounded him to the extent now that he when he sees me coming, he runs the other way. And hey, guess what? The same is true about our government. When he sees me, he's trying to get away because I challenge him every time I see him. Amen. And that's what we all should do. Amen. Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be passing the cake after you can. Do not rush out. We need to pay for this air conditioning. Thank you.
I wish I could say that I'm going to tell you a story tonight and make you real happy so you go home and you sleep good. But I'll warn you ahead of time, I'm not going to do that. It's not because I want to do that. It's because it's a reality of where we are. As I said in the letter that I wrote to the governor, there is never a right time or a right way to do the wrong thing. And way too often we find our legislative and political leaders trying to find some way to put the lipstick on the pig and make it do something it's not supposed to do or look like something it's not supposed to do. And that's contact tracing. Actually, it was originally called contact tracking. But they did a poll, and people didn't like the idea of being tracked. So they did another poll, find out what they did like, and it turns out they're okay with contact tracing. So it's now called contact tracing. Is it any different? Absolutely not. Is there anything wrong with it? Not when done right and used in its right application. We've had it. We've been doing it. In the early 1900s, it was contact tracking that helped us identify and track down and find typhoid Mary. Now, typhoid was a bacteria. The COVID is a virus. That has nothing to do with the process. This is the process by which you identify people to stop the spread of contagious diseases. Ebola is contagious. Typhoid is contagious. HIV is contagious. COVID is contagious, but in different degrees. And contact tracking or tracing works for things like Ebola, TB, HIV, which why they are very deadly, and we really want to use that tool because they are very deadly. They are not very contagious. Yes, they are contagious, but not to the degree that things like the Wuhan virus or the COVID or the Chinese, or whatever you want to call it. It is highly contagious, but unlike Ebola, it's not very deadly. Now let's back up a little bit though and talk about how we got to where we are. Because if you remember when this all started, we were led to believe that the virus was very deadly, probably a death rate of about 7% or greater. That it was highly contagious, and it was going to affect everybody equally. It had no discrimination of age, sex, race. Everybody was going to be exposed to it. And we could expect, if we didn't find some way to treat it or to cure it, that we'd have 240,000 Texans dead by August, which means we would have about 100,000 dead by now. And that's how we started, with a big, big scare. And if you want to think about the reason behind that, let me tell you another little story. A story that how Khrushchev, when he was going into power, and was out on a farm in Russia, explaining to people how communism was going to work and why the people would follow along in it. He was on a farm, several people there, and the animals running around, and he stopped and reached down and he picked up a chicken, held that chicken underneath his arm, and he kept talking. And as he's talking, he starts pulling feathers out of the chicken. Pulled one or two out, and then 3 or 4, and then a handful, and he started ripping the feathers out of the chicken, and the chicken's screaming and hollering, and it's starting to bleed. But he keeps pulling the feathers out, and he keeps talking about the benefits of socialism, how it will provide for people, homes for people, a guaranteed income, guaranteed education, etc. And he's pulling away on those feathers, and finally gets all the feathers out of the chicken, or most of them anyhow, and that chicken's just screaming and hollering and bleeding, and he sets it on the ground, and he walks over to a feed bag, where he picks up a handful of food. Then he walks back to the chicken, and drops a little food in front of it. Chicken eats it. And he walks a few steps and drops a little more food. A few steps and drops a little more. Next thing you know, the chicken follows him all the way across the barnyard as he keeps talking about the benefits of communism. Folks, that's the way it happens with us. They treat really bad, and then when they offer a little something like opening the businesses up 25%, it's a little bit of fee. We feel real happy, like they've really done something for us. But in reality, they have crushed our liberty, crushed what our founding fathers intended for us here. Folks, pandemics are nothing new. We have had them since the country was founded. They have been around every few years. We have gone through things far worse than this. Matter of fact, in the same time frame of what we've lost 1,600 people last month, we'd had about 7,500 of the flu die. So it's not quite what it seems, but let's talk about where we are, because that part of it we can talk all night. We are where we are. But let's talk about contact tracing and what they have envisioned for it. And what I'm going to tell you, I didn't get off of Facebook, and I didn't get out from reading articles written by people. I got my information directly from our Health and Human Services people by talking to them directly more than once. And so what I described to you is what they have described to me, and it is not necessarily consistent with what our governor has said, who has vehemently said that it will be all voluntary. He has said that a number of times, that it will be all voluntary. But then again, we got to remember that there was something said about masks, of people not being required to wear them. And they've kind of found a way around that, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So the way it was described to me is, and it's going to be set up with a lot of people and a whole lot of money going into it. That is a problem in itself, because as I started out, there's never a right time or a right way to do the wrong thing. Contact tracing or tracking, it is wrong technically, because it does not, will not, cannot work with a virus like what the COVID is. It is wrong financially, because we are in the deepest kind of trouble the state has ever been in from a financial standpoint. But oil prices are down, sales tax is down, new car sales. I spoke to the folks on the railroad a couple of weeks ago, and they said their new car shipments are down 70%. New car sales tax, vehicle registrations are a significant part of the state's budget. Even the lottery is down. Folks, it is all down. So spending a dime, and if people argue that, and here's the argument part of that, it's federal money. It's not state money. We're spending federal money. You know what the difference between state money and federal money is? They take the federal money out of your left pocket, and we take the state money out of your right pocket. And the cities and counties just whatever left over. So, but it's wrong financially to spend, we'll spend at least, the initial contract is $300 million. The scope of what they're talking about is probably 3 times that size. And it's morally wrong because of the invasion of privacy and the trampling of liberty and individual rights of the people. So it is wrong on all counts. But let me run you through the scenario of description of how they expect this to work. When you go get a test, and therein lies a big problem in itself, in that the CDC has gone back and forth on the issue of asymptomatic and symptomatic. For those of you who maybe not follow that, this virus, people can have it and never know it. Never know it. They can have it, maybe you have a little nausea, some symptoms, but they think it's something else, and they get right through it, they just never know it. The article I read today estimated that it's probably about 10 to 1 that people asymptomatic, having it and spreading it. And remember, the CDC's been on both sides of it. This is one of the problems we have. They've been on both sides of can it do this, can't do this, and so on. The latest is, this came out of a huge study that was done including a lot of Europe and a lot of data. This was thousands and thousands of cases that asymptomatic people can spread the virus. So tracking can only track the people who have been tested and we know they have it. So right out of the gate, we're focusing on most likely 1/10 of the number of people that could spread it. But the way it will work is you get tested, and then the lab now contacts the state, gives them your name, phone number, and address. And right now that's not working real well because that time period from the time you take the test till the state gets it is about 2 weeks. So we're spending a lot of money. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, it works. And so then they will contact you. And I said, so where is this voluntary? Oh, when we call, they don't have to talk to us. They don't have to answer the questions. Okay, that's fine. It was even said they can hang up, and that's the end of it. Well, there's another state that has been doing it voluntary, and it was voluntary, and they found that they were only getting about 30% of the people to volunteer. So that changed. I'm just saying, it starts out voluntary, that's what they've said it's going to be, but our evidence of what's happening, I believe it was Kansas, was another state where it all of a sudden became non-voluntary. And I said, okay, so that's voluntary, they can hang up. Well, what about the person when they answer the questions? Or, because the question is, okay, where have you been and what have you done for the last week, 2 weeks? How many of you here could right now sit down and tell somebody where you've been or who you've been with or whatever? No. I said, how's that going to work? Because maybe I was at Chili's for lunch on Monday, and I went shopping at Macy's, and then I was over at Town East on Thursday, maybe it's Thursday, whatever. I don't remember, I was in a couple of stores. Oh, now I've gotten this story on both sides, so which way it's going to be, I can't say for sure, but the answer I got the first time was, oh, the businesses will keep a log of who's in the store on what day. The restaurants will keep a log on who sat at what table with who on what day. And I can tell you, I have had people call me already that had tried to go to a restaurant and got met at the door wanting to have an ID before they'd let them in to sit there. It's happened in Dallas and it's happened in Austin. And so I've actually had people, so what is happening out there is a little bit different from what was said would be happening or could be happening when I was told later that, oh no, we won't have the logs. So there is no way to make this work if they don't have them. So it doesn't make sense. But the next step was, okay, so you find out that Fred had seen Betty, Judy, Bill, George, whatever, and you get their number and call them. I said, how does Fred, Billy, and George, how did they volunteer to get into this thing? And it was dead silence. Well, they don't have to answer either. So that's kind of how that part of it went up. So they're saying it's voluntary. There is no way for it to meaningfully work if it stays voluntary. Then we moved on to, okay, what are you really looking for other than who they're in contact with? So, oh, well, we'll need to know, but the more important thing is the living conditions of the person. Well, we're going to say, oh, but we're not going to ask them any personal questions about finances or something like that. But we're going to, like, is it a family of 5 living in a 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom? It's going to be hard for a person to quarantine or isolate in those circumstances, particularly if the house has an elderly person in it or a young person. And so I said, well, what are you going to do? He said, well, we're going to have some government facilities that the people can move into, or maybe the child, or the elderly person. And I said, and that's voluntary? The answer I got was, we hope it will be voluntary. And I said, that's when I started my boat going like that. So I said, where in the world do you think you're going to get the authority to do this? Hang on to this answer. Oh, we already have it. We already have it. I said, really? He says, oh yeah. It is part of the health code that gives the authority to the county health officer to quarantine people with a contagious disease. Now, it has a purpose, and I can't say it's bad, because when you do have a person that has a contagion, because we've had people with contagious diseases who decided they want to go out and use that to infect other people. And so that's what it was put in place for. It's one of those things, when it's used right, it has a right place and it's a right time to do it. The unfortunate thing is, we have seen what our mayors, some of them, and our judges will do when given just a little bit of authority with something to turn it into something you never intended for it to be. And so we find ourselves, that's in a situation where we take something that's intended for good that could really be used for bad. And so that's where it starts to get a little dicey in what we're going to do with this, particularly since we have no idea where the end of it is going to be. And so, unfortunately, where we find ourselves here today is that, as we talked about in the beginning, what we were told, 7% death rate, 240,000 Texans dead by August of this year, highly contagious and affects everyone. The reality of it is none of that is true. None of it is true. The death rate, the last I saw from the CDC, and as more data is collecting, the number has got to keep going down. But it's gone from 7% down now to 0.26. 0.26. Your chances of getting the COVID in Texas you're 99.8% probability you won't even get it. And if you get it, you've got a 98% chance of survival. And it is not an equal opportunity infector. It is it's a target for people with a challenge, a low immune system, particularly the elderly. I hate using that word, elderly. We're talking about 60 and above. 60 and above. I guess that makes some of us super elderly in there. But 60 and above with a compromised immune system, 60 and above with a compromised, that is diabetes, obesity, hypertension, chemo treatments and things like that where your immune system is down, 80% of our deaths. That's where it is. 20 and under is less than 1%. School-age kids, 15 and under. Last article I read on it, they did the calculation, said a 15 and under is 4 times more likely to be struck by lightning than to die of the COVID. So what we need to be doing is focusing on those that are vulnerable for it. You see, you mentioned that I was in the military. One of the things you learn in the military, in combat, I did not go into combat, but I got trained for it. But one thing you learn is you have a battle plan. The battle plan was put together by staff way before the battle started on their estimates of what to expect when you get into battle. Now, John knows that because he is a hardened veteran of lots of combat, and there are some others in here. And he knows, and those that have done this know, that when the first shot is fired, the battle commander's primary job is to adjust their plan, his plan, to meet the enemy's tactics, strength, and firepower. If he doesn't, and he tries to follow a plan that doesn't match it, he's going to get his rear end kicked. He's going to lose. And that's what we haven't done. We are still today acting as though this was something that was going to have a 7% death rate, and everybody's going to get it. And so until we recognize and adjust to it, we're going to go through what we're talking about going through. where today we understand we have now rolled back on our medical facilities in 4 counties. Dallas is one of them. And that was a major problem the first time around. And I had a real hard time with our Texas Medical Board when they did a triage from Austin. And they decided to put the citizens of Texas into 2 classes of people. The first class for medical services. First class, anyone who had the COVID or they thought had the COVID. The second class was everybody else without regard to your health conditions. It was everybody else, 2 classes. And then they reserved 99.99% of our medical facilities for the first class citizens with the COVID, to the total exclusion of all the rest of Texas. And as a result, we had many a person who could not get, because they called it elective surgery, and I just don't ever think that breast cancer surgery is elective. Prostate cancer surgery is not elective. Cancer surgery of any time is not elective. Knee surgery, for a person that has a bad knee, it's hardly elective. You can go down the list. I said lunch 2 days ago with a friend that turned out that had been going through chemo, had 1 treatment to go, and they turned him away. And he had to go back and start all over again for a tumor on the kidney. Had a woman that needed knee surgery, got turned away. She committed suicide. We have done, and it's the question I've asked every time we've had the phone calls we have weekly that are just for the legislature. Who is trying, when they kept talking about we're flattening the curve, we got to flatten the curve, flatten the curve. I said, who's watching the other curve? It's the first time I asked her, what do you mean the other curve? I said, I'm talking about the collateral damage to the people of Texas as a result of what we're doing to them with this. Who is looking at the damage to them? And it was crickets. Nobody was paying attention to that. The collateral damage has been great. I live in a neighborhood that has a lot of airline pilots. A couple of weeks ago I was told that since this went into effect, we've had 6 Southwest pilots commit suicide over the financial problems they ran into. One week on our phone call, one of the reps from down in the Woodlands area mentioned on the call, get their attention, he said, you know, last weekend I had 4 people in the district die of the COVID. People, AJ says, oh, that's terrible, sorry to that. He says, no, but we had 7 people commit suicide. Folks, our domestic violence has been up, child abuse has been up. We have a lot that's going on as a result of that. And hopefully we will not roll this back. We will go forward with opening back up, educating people to be smart, informed. As I said, this is America, built on fundamental rights of the individual for liberty. And people should be allowed to make their own choice to the level of risk that they're willing to take. There are people here tonight who recognize it was a risk to come here because you had to get on the highway, maybe on the interstate. Some of you didn't take the interstate because you don't like the interstate, it's too scary. That's your choice, that's your risk. There's some of you who won't go out in the boat because you think people drown if they go out in boats. That's fine. That's your choice. What we need to be doing is informing people of the facts. And as I said earlier, the facts are that this is a selective virus. It's focused, and people can do something about it and reduce their level of risk to whatever is comfortable for them to do. Not tell everybody, blanket, don't come out of your house, which was bad to begin with, because what we should have, if anything, said, stay home, but get in your backyard and stand in the sunshine because it kills the COVID. Don't stay in the house. I mean, the number of cases that we have of what they call familial, that is family members, because they isolated together, is huge. And the other side of it is over 50% of our deaths in Texas have been in our nursing homes. And it's over that because the numbers say 50%, close to it. But in counting, if a person is taken out of the nursing home and goes to the hospital and dies, it doesn't even count in it. We've got communities that all their deaths were in a nursing home, but they had the businesses shut down. And I guarantee you with this thing that's coming up with the mask now, that the mayor in some cities out there will shut them down anyhow. So let me just cover one other thing, and then I'll open it up to some questions. And that is, how did we get to where we are today? I mean, it is a question that bothers me a great deal. And the answer, I think, is it didn't happen overnight. And when I say that, I'm kind of shifting gears on you. I'm getting back to where we are as a result of what we've seen that has come along as a part of this virus that's come after it, of what we've seen happening in the streets and around. It didn't happen overnight. We can go all the way back to my story about the chicken and slowly pulling the feathers out. This started 100 years ago when people decided that the government needed to have more money. And so we instituted an income tax, because the power that the government exercises over us today is a result of the amount of money that they have. They've got the power with the money. And then quickly behind that, they stripped away some of the powers of the people when they had senators being elected by the population rather than by the states, which again unbalanced the distribution of power. That was the wisest thing our founding fathers did, was distribute that power. Unlike what we got right now, where all the power is in one person, but they had to distribute it. And then over the years, we had other little things happen, like with Nixon, who we removed off the gold standard, which then allowed the government to print all the money it wanted. And then we roll over and we take God out of our schools, and God's going out of our... And what did we do? Crickets. We sat there and let it happen. The water got hotter, it kept getting hotter, kept getting hotter. And as we took God out of our schools and we started, the communists recognized, like what Hitler had said, give me a child when they're 7 and they'll be mine forever. Yes. Where did these people that have been out there with these riots, where did they learn what is in their heads that lead them to believe the things that they are now believing? Folks, we have lost it with the generations coming up. And it happened because we let it happen. We sat at home watching television, playing golf, playing tennis, reading a book to enjoy and to entertain ourselves, rather than paying attention to what's happening. And it didn't happen fast. It was just a little chip at a time, a little chip at a time. We saw it stick its ugly head up several years ago with the program that was in our schools, and I'm just... Common Core, and then the Texas program. Of course, I still have at home one of the lessons that was secretly got out of the school on economics. It's a stair step, and it shows a person running up these stair steps of economic principles. At the bottom of the stair step is called free enterprise. At the top was communism. Oh, yeah. That was one of the lessons in class. And so we have a choice. We can continue to sit at home, not be active, and see what order is going to come out of Washington or Austin next. Or we can decide to get involved, do something. Because it is a government of the people and by the people. And believe me, I will tell you that when the people get upset enough, it changes things. It does. We had a Tea Party. They got a good running start. And it actually changed some things here in Texas. And then it died out because people got complacent again real quick. And where we're going right now, it's going to take a lot of noise. I mean, I told you, the legislators, we can't do a thing. We're not in session. We don't go into session until January. And anything we do doesn't take effect until the following year. But you can make a difference. This past year, we had almost every county in Texas pass a resolution making their county a Second Amendment sanctuary. We've had several cities that made their cities an abortion-free sanctuary in the cities. Because the people got together, they got their city council, they got their county commissioners to pass those resolutions. Local government has a lot of power, and they will listen to the people. You're the closest to them. One way around out of this is right the same route. We've already had 2 and I think maybe 3 counties now that have passed resolutions saying that they will not participate and support contact tracing. If you're going to do it state, you go do it yourself. We're not going to support it. The county support is key for it to happen. If enough of that happens, then it will not, we can stop it from happening there. But to get back and talk about where are we really going with this, as we look at how we've come from real liberty up over the years as it's gone away, and to where we are today, where we have statues of Grant being torn down, where we have statues of a foreigner who was a tremendous abolitionist and gave up his life, beheaded and drugged through the streets. And how did we get from just a few weeks ago having a businesswoman here in Texas being arrested and put in jail for simply trying to feed her family, doing something that was absolutely legal up to that point, but come down on her like a ton of bricks, to what we have seen lately, where people are out destroying private property, destroying public property, beating up, maiming people, killing people in the streets, and not a word being said about it, not a word being in the media, or the leaders doing a thing about it, and at the end, actually kneeling and asking for their forgiveness. How did we get here? Folks, I'll tell you, the only way person I'll ever kneel to is my Lord Jesus Christ. How did we get here? Think about that. Just a few weeks ago, businesswoman arrested for trying to earn a living. 2 people being killed. Property being destroyed. Not one person arrested. Not one person charged. Folks, this is, I bring this up because where we are, while contact tracing is a very serious issue that we have to put an end to, we have got to wake up that we're about to lose our country. We're about to lose what our founding fathers did for us, what many people have died and shed their blood for. Yes. We're about to lose this. Amen. And it's because we just haven't done what we need to do. When I think about it, my father was a disabled veteran. I had 2 uncles. One spent 3 years in a POW camp. I've had others lost. I had a sister that went to Vietnam, spent a year in a MASH unit over there. They sacrificed. They made real sacrifices. My sister couldn't even talk about what she saw in that MASH unit until about 10 years ago. That's what they did for our freedom. And we are just letting it go because we won't do what needs to be done. I can say is, make people aware of it. When you go home tonight, walk in and take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, would all those people who died for this country, who lost their limbs, or suffered the problems they came back here with PTSD, if I laid out what I've done for my country to try to defend liberty, would I be proud of it? Would they be proud of it? Now, that's a tough question. I said I wasn't going to make you real happy, but it's something we have to do, have to think about here. Not think about it, we have to do it. Because if it is to be, if you can't say it's up to me and believe it and go do something about it, then it ain't going to happen. With that, thank you all. Let me take a question or two here.
In the mics, it'll pick up on all these. In your mic, just repeat their questions.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I wanted to jump up. Two questions. One is a favor. Just like he said, you've got to do something. They are so organized. They get the minute they say mass, they're calling, they're writing. So I'm going to pass around a clipboard. I'm with the Dallas Eagle Forum. If you're willing to write a letter, we'll send you the letter. You just sign it. We'll give you the email address. You email. We'll give you the phone number. Please call us. We've got to be loud and proud. We love our country. And the second thing is the numbers. Are they changing the numbers? It's my understanding that the positives are being calculated in another manner. So they're taking three different metrics and lumping them all into new cases, new positives.
Yeah, the numbers have changed. A lot of it has to do with how they collect the information. Let me tell you what you need to watch. The number of new cases is really not very significant. The number that really counts are the number of hospitalizations and the number of deaths.
That's right.
That's what really counts. And all of what we're doing should be focused on trying to minimize the number of deaths in there. So, but no, the question about where people die and how they die and the stories, I have no doubt that there are a number of people, because they are. If you have, the person has the COVID and dies of a heart attack, they're going to get scored as dying of the COVID. It's just the way they're doing it. That's, you know, it's not changing anything. The other part is to recognize that, and I'll say this, I don't mean this, I mean, every death is important, every moment of life is important, but a significant number of people that have died were in hospice care. So they were already from day to day, but they count as a COVID, and yes, their life was probably shortened, but that's different than someone that is absolutely healthy in their 40s getting it and dying. So, Angela?
Why are doctors not treating this?
Well, I can't say that they aren't, because I've talked with a number of doctors that are. I have talked with a number of doctors that are very successfully treating it, and it is a problem we've had. I fought this issue on the existing drugs out there. Many of you are familiar with hydroxychloroquine that was brought out, and everybody kind of tried to blow it off. Well, I've talked to doctors who have absolutely had success with it. Our own Dr. Robin Armstrong, our national committee man, has a nursing home down in Texas City. And back in March, he had 38 of his patients that tested positive for it. He put them on hydroxychloroquine, and 37 of them lived. One of them was a lady 102 years old. Amen. We've got a Dr. Yvette Lozano right here in Texas. I don't know how many she's up to now, but she's got people coming in from California and New Jersey that she is treating. And it is working. There are doctors that are. I've been told, I haven't been to the hospitals, but there are hospitals that refuse to use hydroxychloroquine. Personally, I'm not sure what they're doing in the hospitals, because they told us that we have no treatment for them. And so the question is, why are we reserving the hospital for them when somebody with a heart attack or a kidney problem can't get in if we don't have any way to treat them? And so, but that would take a whole long time to
The
talk.
medical board is trying to shut Yvette Lozano down, by the way. You can tell everybody that in that microphone.
Oh, they are?
They are. Just talk to her today.
Okay, I talked to her today. I'm sure they probably will, because she's being successful.
Tell everybody.
Okay, what she just said is Dr. Yvette Lozano said today that the Texas Medical Board is trying to shut her down. All right, keep going. Right here.
This week, we have lost a Confederate monument, and the city demolished it with no certificate of demolition. And when we confronted them, they said, so what? They are on the offensive right now, and these Democrats and these radical leftists are emboldened like we've never seen. And when you say, how did we get here? It's more than crickets. We've had a failure of the Texas Republican leadership. Patrick, Abbott, and James Dickey are not conservatives, they're money changers. These guys, and what they have done is trying to appease these radical leftists. They're throwing in conservative values and historical heritage, thinking that it's going to appease them and that these guys can stay in power.
That's right.
The other failure has been with the Republican justices in the appeals court. They have folded on us in the last 3 weeks. With the one exception of Bill White.
Yeah.
So we have a problem here with the Republican leadership, and by the time we get to November, this is going to be over.
Yeah.
So the question is, what do we do now? Same thing the left is doing. Right. We've got to confront Eric Johnson and T.C. Broden and all of these radical leftists on the city council. Because they think they've got the momentum right now to ignore the law. And the justices have folded on us. So we are in an existential crisis right now. What do we do?
The unfortunate thing is, it's getting into the game too late. We're going to have to ride this out through the next election, and going to have to do something about it, because there is really no way at this point to do anything about it. But hopefully it will be enough to wake people up. We've got enough Republicans in Dallas. You got here, and not because of what the leadership did at the top, but by the failure of the people to show up at the ballot box and put in people in the local offices that need to be in there. Yes, I agree that there's been lack of performance in a number of places, but what you have in office in Dallas is there because people call themselves Republicans and they sit at home and they don't show up to vote. You've got enough here to vote, and if you should show up, it would happen. And that's what has to happen. You need to get mad enough. You need to get enough going that you will get your neighbor out there. You've got some runoff elections coming out about here. Everybody here in November ought to make a firm commitment to go vote 10 times. Literally. And I mean that. And what I mean by that is not the way the Democrats do it, but go get 10 of your lazy friends who are too lazy to get out and go vote. Shame them into it. Whatever you have to do, get them to go to the poll and vote. And when you do that, you will have voted 10 times. And therefore, that's how we do it. This is America based on a system that we don't want to change, and that is where we make our changes are done at the ballot box. That is the best form of term limits there will ever be, is right there at the ballot box.
But we need someone like Alan West.
We've got an election coming up. We're good. There was somebody. Yes, Jan.
With regard to going back to what Bob has said about contact tracing, is every one of us can call the governor, call the lieutenant governor, call your state rep, your state senator, and drive home these points. We do not want it. It does not work, and we are going to vote them out of office. But we've got to speak out. And so that's the answer, besides voting in November. But we've got to take action now. And I don't know of any other state senator like Bob Hall that's speaking out. Do you all know of another one that is? No. Why is that? And contact your friends in other counties, in other parts of Texas, and get them to do the same. I mean, we can be an army to make a difference.
Okay. All of that.
And this is extremely important. I was in court, maybe some of you were in court for the election, which are, I'm sorry, this really has got to be, but we have what Tony Pippen's Pool said in court under oath was that there was a third-party contractor. When she was asked, she was never asked who that third-party contractor was. She was asked, was there a poll watcher? She said no. She was also asked, was there anybody that knew there was a third-party contractor? And she said no. We don't have an election that's honest, and I don't know what we can do. But everybody that was in that courtroom heard that.
Okay.
And I'm sorry about that, I had to say that.
Okay, let me comment on that because she brought up something that you specifically can do. You know, Dallas does not even get enough people to show up at their Republican parties to fill the chairs they have going to the state convention. We don't even have a fraction of our precinct chairs filled in Dallas.
Correct.
And the precinct chairs should be the heart of our neighborhood to get our people out to vote. And they go empty year after year after year. And we don't get the poll watchers. What she's talking about there is we need to have volunteers on election, during election week and on election day, in every place there's a poll, there's polling taking place, to be there to watch what's happening and to report bad actions. We need that in every one of them. We can't get enough people to even show up to do that. Yeah, okay. That is no excuse for not doing it. That doesn't cover the empty chairs we have and the places where there is no one. If we had enough people there and enough being done, there would be enough noise about it to happen. Yes.
One of the concerns that I have is that, we're going to see, and as this contact tracing thing is rolled out and as mask orders are put in place, you'll see a lot of people simply say, look, we're not going to comply with contact tracing. We'll hang up on them. They won't comply with the mask orders. They won't comply with some other things. So here's my concern is that what does that do to the credibility of our state government as these edicts have been imposed and as they may be imposed again in the future, if Abbott tries to go back into phase one? In your view, does our government lose credibility in the eyes of the people as it tries to enforce things like contact tracing, quarantine, mask orders that people in the millions ultimately stop complying with? What does that mean?
I think it helps move our government back to where it should be, and that is of the people. Because we need to have our government listening to what the people are saying in it, and I think it's a proper role for people to speak up. Speak up, not tear things up, not to break things, but to speak up.
Amen. But are we heading to chaos?
I don't, that one. Wait. Yes, sir, back over here.
We're going to talk about changing strategy regarding COVID. I just want to throw that
and I'm not part of the circle that makes that decision, but I think I said when we talked out here, what we should be doing, in my opinion, at the government, is providing people with the information that they need to make their own decision based on their level of risk. I'm not familiar with what Georgia's done. I'll certainly will be after tonight, though. But it sounds like they're going in the right direction. Yes, we have folks in our nursing homes and places where we have a responsibility for looking after them, and we ought to be doing the right thing and helping protect them. We're providing people information and let them make their own decisions. It's just like here tonight. There are some wearing masks and some aren't. I think that's perfectly fine. Everybody making their own decision. But go read what they say about the mask. Be careful. Be careful. Yes, sir.
Is it worthwhile to call a pharmacy board in Austin and tell them about why harassing about why they're
Absolutely.
Yes.
Between the medical board and the pharmacy board, they need to have phone calls and letters coming just like everybody else. They're a very arrogant bunch of folks down there. I have dealt with them, and they need to hear from the people also. Absolutely. Sammy, you had one. Go ahead.
I was just curious, how did you know this contact tracing very early? So who planted the seed? Where did this come from? It's important to know the generation of it. Yes, we need to address it, but this was
It started with the federal government. It was.
the CDC?
Huh?
Was it the CDC?
It is tied. It was. I have not. I'm going to tell you what I was told. I don't have documentation for this, but I was told that our funding from the federal government was predicated on us having a contact tracing program. Now the difference is there's no definition of what that is. We could have done that with this instead of doing it with this.
Hey, Bob, why don't we, when you go back, I know you can't do anything now because you said you can't wait till you meet. But one thing you need to put in this thing is, if they shut us down ever again in this world, at any time in the future, the government officials don't get a paycheck either. Wow, we're starting today.
Actually, I had that in one of the letters I wrote already. That should be that goes along with any of it. Yes, ma'am. Right here.
So I've done a lot of research on MTX, and early on, I discovered that they gave all public schools in the United States the free app. Do you know anything about that? Do you remember reading that?
I've read about it. I don't know anything about it. That contract, the whole process, I think should be. I've written a letter to both the Inspector General in Health and Human Services and to our Attorney General, asking them to investigate that contract award. I think it stinks to high heaven, and I think it needs to have a very tight scrub on it.
I think they have a plan for what they want to do. We can't see exactly what that is, but I know that when it's free, you are the product. I think that there will be some sort of, it's an access point for one, but also it'll be a way to keep people from getting their kids back into school unless they've gone through this whole tracing app. And I also have a question about the strike force. Do you know that 25 of the 40 people on Governor Abbott's strike force are big money donors?
Yes.
And what are they doing? I've heard nothing about them speaking out against any of this. They've been pretty quiet. Same with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's task force.
I am not on the inside of any of that. I don't know. I've had one member of it call me to try to calm me down, and it didn't work. So, listen, all of that.
Yeah, so there was one comment made about why poll watch because no changes happen. And I can assure you right now that there are 2 lawsuits that are working their way through the courts in Dallas County. More than that, 2 that I'm tracking closely. So, and I can just tell you that yes, there's a long game here. Because the election department is running by Democrats, you won't get an immediate satisfaction. But documenting this stuff does have an effect. So please do not volunteer.
have this age discrimination, then even in November, people aren't going to go out and vote. And they're not going to do the things that you claim because we need to do because of the fear. And my mother was in a nursing home, and nobody could go see her, so she died. I mean, she didn't have the virus thing, but nobody was there to help her or encourage her or help her get food or nothing. So she died.
We take two more, and then it's getting kind of late, and folks need to go home, because we could do this probably all night.
Bob, you talked about some of the root causes, and I think we need to go back to that, because a lot of this stuff is actually Leninist theory. And what do? They want to demoralize the people. They want to have you live in fear. Their side will never be demoralized. They want our side to be demoralized. And as you look at that, and so I mean, we have to address this issue. They want us in fear, like you just said, so that we're not going to show up. But then when you look at the society and the chaos in society, I like what you were talking about, the different things that happen along the way, Bob. You talked about the prayer in school, taking a few years further, and then you have the destruction of the family, automatic, state-sponsored destruction of the family has been going on for 50 years. If you have destruction of the family, are we surprised to see chaos in society? We have people brought up in fatherless homes, and this is what they're doing. So, we have to address, like you said, the long game. We have to address this right now, but we need to go back to where we were, and in fact, all of these things at their root. If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? We need to go back and rebuild those foundations.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Dallas County not having precinct chairs in many of their precincts. They don't have them and don't want them. I volunteered 6 years to be a precinct chair, and they keep cutting me off saying we're not going to have a precinct chair. We don't want precinct chairs. They don't want precinct chairs because they don't want anything happening in the precincts. They want Democrats to take over the precincts, and that's what's happening now. Now we have a Democratic state senator from my precinct. When we could have all of that. Our Republican Party in Dallas County is a joke, and we're not effective at all. A lot of our leadership is left, and are not effective there. I don't know how it is in the counties that you represent, but in Dallas County, it's just not effective at all.
I've been to a number of county meetings in Dallas County, and one of the reasons you have the problem, that hardly anybody shows up for the meetings. You start showing up in mass, everything's voted on. Most everything is voted on. You get the numbers there, and you will get what you want out of it. So, one more. Yes, ma'am.
When the patient dies in the hospital, the physician doesn't sign off on the death. And they have the primary and secondary diagnosis. If the primary diagnosis is heart failure or pneumonia or what, and then they have the second diagnosis as COVID, then they should have COVID. Why are the doctors not and the medical staff not standing up for what's really the cause of death and what's really COVID was a side effect? I don't understand why the physicians aren't saying this is wrong. Well, I know they're getting money, but the doctors don't get the test, the hospital does.
That I don't have an answer for you. I don't know that. Mary Catherine. Okay, thank you all so much. I want everybody to stand up. Stand up. We're going to do two things. Pastor Broden is going to close us in prayer.
No. You got a few things to do.
Oh, you probably okay. All right. Then I'm going to finish up. I want you to repeat after me. If it is to be, it is up to me. If it is to be, it is up to me. All right. Thank you all very much. God bless you. God bless you.
Give us a hand. Amen. Have a seat. We're not quite finished.
finish, Beth Beasel is going to close us out. But I wanted to have the microphone before then. I'll ask Marjorie Williams to come to the microphone. Marjorie Williams. I think, men and women, we're on to something here, but I think as we collaborate together, the conservatives in my community meet with the conservatives in your community, we can be a powerful force for getting things done. Marjorie is the leader of one of the conservative movements in our community. I want her to represent what they're doing.
Hello everybody, how you doing? Good. We do have a conservative group, and it's called Coalition of Christian Black Conservatives. And we have come together as a group because we want to do something to get the message out in the black community that we have been duped for. They have been duped because I have not been duped. I have never been a Democrat ever. But that we are being manipulated. And it's really hard, but that's what we're trying to do. But one of the things we're going to do we have coming up is we're standing with a group called Stand in Prayer for America. And what we're going to do is on July the 14th at 2 o'clock, we're going to come together and we're going to pray. Right now, we're looking at places. The one place that I am really talking to them about is at Flagpole Hill in Dallas, Texas. We can come together as Christians and pray. Because we can fight, we can march, we can do a whole lot of stuff, but prayer is the strongest thing we can do. If you are a Christian and you believe in prayer, it works. It works. So we can do a whole lot of stuff, but we need to call on God to come in and heal the land. And the reason they chose the time, 2 o'clock on 7:14 is 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people which are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will forgive their sin and I will heal their land. Amen. We want to invite everybody to come. It will be July the 14th at 2 o'clock. And we're thinking it's going to be at Flagpole Hill. And if anybody can give me their information so I can contact your group. And it will be hosted by the Coalition of Christian Black Conservatives. And we would like everybody to come. We're going to get as many people out as we can. Okay? One more thing I want to say right quickly is Angela Singletary is my Facebook friend. You never meet these people? So I want to meet you after this is over.
Amen. That when you come to the microphone.
Y'all, I just got to ask you something. Do y'all just love being here? Is this not the coolest thing? And Marjorie, we're on it, okay? We were in touch. We just need to do this more often, all right? So I wanted to, we forgot to thank the sponsors because there were lots and lots of sponsors. So why don't y'all stand up and I call your group name. Of course, I'm American Liberty Forum, Texas Eagle Forum, Cindy, Dallas Eagle Forum, Park Cities Republican Women, Irving Republican Women, Garland Tea Party, Casa Linda Tea Party, Texas Red Forum, Texas Freedom Coalition. Look at these people and decide maybe you want to go sign up with their organization. Because education is the foundation for motivation and activation. So you got to get educated. So check these people out, and Marjorie will make some connections, and we'll start working with you guys. And again, thank you to Pastor Broden. Y'all, can y'all just give him one more round of applause? Okay, I think Troy, you've been passing the basket around. I was going to make sure that got done. Y'all, thank you for contributing to the air conditioning fund. Maybe we'll get invited back. I hope so. And I just wanted to give you a couple of little tidbits. I went to a website called CoursyNation.com. For $60, I got a telemedicine appointment. A doctor called me. And he said, ma'am, what do you want? And I said, I want 3 things. I want a prescription for hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc. And he said, do you want anything else? No, thank you, I don't. That's all he said. What's your address? The pharmacist will call you. The pharmacist called me, ma'am, what's your date of birth? What's your name? What's your address? What are the things you want? Hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc for about $54. The telemedicine conference cost $60. The 3 prescriptions were about $54 all total, something like that. If you're a little worried, want to have it on the shelf, you might be able to barter it later on, I don't know, but we know it works. So, Corsi Nation, C-O-R-S-I, nation.com, okay? So, just a little tidbit. Susan, do that one more time in a minute. And then, for those of us who are very healthy and think it makes us sicker to wear a mask, our immune systems are not compromised, you can get a mask exemption, let me show that here, mask exemption card. Mine's actually just on a printed piece of paper. If you want me to send you a link with this image, you can carry this around and businesses cannot refuse you. It's an ADA compliant statute. So you can carry it around and to see me afterwards if you want me to give you this, or email me. Okay, AmericanLibertyForum@gmail.com. Okay, so AmericanLibertyForum@gmail.com. Email me if you want a face mask exemption card, so you will not be hassled by businesses. Because right now I haven't been to the grocery store because you know the whole thing. Okay, so actions, again, just to reiterate, this is so important not to walk out of here just saying, oh, that felt so good, that was so great. Go out of here with a commitment to do something. All right, get out the vote. Okay, we got that. Serve as poll watchers so we can, as Mary Catherine said, watch the central count, watch what's happening in the precinct. I don't know if I can say this online, but I'm going to say it anyhow. Give your elected officials hell. Just give them hell, y'all. Just give them hell, okay? And right after you give them hell, because I don't think they'll listen to anything else, so you just have to give them hell. Then we have to pray, like Marjorie said. You have to pray. We have to pray hard, y'all. We have to pray. Right after you pray, then I want you to consider joining me in another kind of fight. And what I'm proposing is that we fight lawlessness with the law. And you know what that means? We go to court. And I only need $5,000 to get it started. Only $5,000. I had a phone meeting with the attorney today. Do y'all think that Governor Abbott has committed crimes? You think he's committed crimes? Okay, well, you know, nobody's ever done this in court before. Nobody's ever proven that an elected official, let alone a governor, has committed crimes. But we can do it. But we need about $5,000 to get it off the ground. And my husband back there only told me I could do like that much because of other things going on in our lives. But I'm sure all of us together and everybody else on Facebook, Live and Zoom and everybody else, contact me, AmericanLibertyForum@gmail.com, and tell me you want to help me fight lawlessness with the law. Okay, I think that's it, y'all. Thank you so much for coming. This is just awesome. Wait, Lane has something. Oh, and signs. Trump Pence signs in the back. Please pick up some. Lane. Shameless. Go ahead.
I'm Lane Sullivan with Park Cities Republican Women. We have a meeting next Tuesday. You're all invited, and the speakers are Chad Purda, running sheriff, and also Bill Douglas, who just stepped out. He's running for House District 113, and Shelley Luther, who is going to be on
Okay, next Tuesday, that's June 30th, I think, Shelley Luther, Chad Perda, Debbie Georgiados, and Will Douglas. A great meeting. Y'all show up to these meetings and bring your friends and get educated and get motivated. Do we have one? We do have to be out of here, y'all. We promised that Pastor Broden would be out of here by 7:30. Oh yeah, tactical training. If you want to join some tactical training, somebody said it out here. This is unprecedented times. I don't know about y'all, but I've been to some of these protests. I've been shoved. I've had coke poured on me, and I wasn't really sure what I could do in response to it. But we have to push back. Pastor Broden was with me. We were yelled at. We were told to kneel down. And do you think we kneeled? Hell no. No. But there are things you can do. So see Carol, stand up. If you want to learn more and get trained, tactical training, just go talk to her afterwards. Pastor, are you going to come pray?
Yeah, I think
so. Oh, there you are.
Cindy, do you have something to say?
I'd like to. Go ahead.
If you will go to TexasEagleForum.com tomorrow morning, we will have posted a letter that you need to hit and send, and it's to help stop the radical agenda to over-sexualize and destroy our children in that way. In the schools, they're rewriting those. They do it every 10 years, and the left is out there in force, and we've got a simple little action item you can do, TexasEagleForum.com. We need you to do it before Monday, and share it. You.
Wow. Let's stand to our feet. Beth has a request for $5,000, folks. And just think about that. If you gave $30 apiece, everybody in here gave $30 apiece, she'll be there. And we can start it. I'm working with her. My name is going to be on the charge, along with hers and others. We are seeking to put pressure on our governor, who has no pressure whatsoever. He ignores the grassroots and does whatever he wants to do. We need to get his attention. We need to get his attention. And this will get his attention. I know some of us, we subscribe to Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment. But this is not the time for that.
Amen.
Our nation is in trouble, and we need your help. Let's pray.
Just tell the basket is for Pastor Broden. Okay, come see me.
Oh yeah, well, see her. Yeah. Pay for my air conditioner tonight. Father, we are so grateful for who you are. Thank you for Bob Hall, who has the tenacity and the willingness to stand up and to tell us what's going on. Help us to support him and to stand with him as he stands in public office on behalf of we, the people of the United States. Bless those who have come. Encourage their hearts to know it's not what you see that matters, it's who you know. And we know Jesus. Amen. And we win. Amen. Greet one another before leaving. Clean up your area where you are. That's James.